Hello.
How are you?
I'm okay.
We have to do 2 cases.
Huh?
We have to do 2 cases.
Case number 2.
It's 2 of them.
Yes.
It's crazy. I did it on a 5 pages.
What do you mean by crazy?
It's so long. It's 6 questions.
Oh, it's not 12 o'clock yet.
Yeah, you're very prepared for the class.
Huh?
You're very prepared for the class.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I'm already prepared. You want us to start now?
What?
I said, do you want us to start? Your peers are not here. You want us to go on?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I don't have a place to live.
Pardon me?
I don't have a place to sleep.
You don't find a place to sleep? Why?
Nowhere.
Nobody wants to live with you?
Nobody wants to live.
Why? What have you done?
Nothing.
Let us go on with this.
Now?
Let us go, yes. We have been talking about objections. The objections are simply the questions that prospects or prospect will ask during a presentation. Last week I talked about the experienced and the inexperienced salespersons. You see, the inexperienced salesperson will do the presentation until the end of the presentation before he or she entertains objections, questions. But the experienced salesperson in his or her presentation, do you see, will stop and then answer questions when objections are raised. You see, it is not good to, not responding to an objection in some cases. You see, these are 6 major categories of objections. Do you see? So we are going to start from here, the 6 major categories or classifications of objections. We will take each one and then explain what each means. We have the hidden objections, we have the stalling objections, no need objections, money objections, product objections, and the source objections. These are the 6 categories of objections that could be raised during a sales call presentation. Now, if you pick, how do you handle these sales objections? Do you see? The sales objections may ask for information or may give strong resistance. Now, remember, one of the golden rules is that you want to help the person. You want to improve the prospect. Do you see? So you remember that you want to help the individual prospect or prospects. Do you see? So, salespeople need the salespersons doing the presentations. They need to communicate well. But how do they do it? How do they communicate? Do you see? To handle objections, to answer questions about the product or the service is not a simple thing. It could be challenging. Do you see? If it is done incorrectly, if you don't do it correctly, you may appear to be rude to the prospect. But if you do it correctly, then you present yourself as what? Being professional. And that is what the salesperson has to present the salesperson's self. Do you see? Do you see? There are time-honored communications techniques that can help you to do what? Be a good communicator. Do you see? Help others effectively. being a good communicator, you see, more effectively help other people. Talk nicely to people, communicate, provide them with the necessary information, and you will help the individual who is asking for information about your presentation. Do you see? So we have these techniques for meeting objections. We have these techniques for meeting objections. You see, the dodge, this in pass up, rephrase as questions, postpone. Do you see? Number 4, postpone the objection. But remember, if you postpone the objection, sometimes it is not good.
What's postpone?
Postpone means ignore it, don't answer the question. Do you see? Until another time. Now you ask me a question and I appear as if I didn't hear the question, or I don't understand the question and therefore I will not even ignoring you. Boomerang, ask questions. Ask questions is that you are, if there is an objection, do you see, you can rephrase or you can ask the prospect in a questions in a certain way. Put the question back. Do you see? Denial, we are going to pick each of these. Indirect denial, compensation, and the third party. Do you see? So, we have techniques for meeting objections. 1, the dodge questions is not, these dodge questions or objections neither denies or answers nor ignores the question. Dodge. Do you see? You don't deny that it is correct or is this in you, or you provide answers, or you do not provide answers at all. You ignore it. That is the dodge. That is the dodge objections. No? But do you see, don't be afraid to pass on the objections up. Do you see? Don't be afraid to pass up an objection. Don't be afraid to pass over it. You see? Number 3, rephrase an objection. And this, we have examples of rephrasing an objection on what? Exhibit 12.8. And we have and this in here. Postponing an objection is sometimes important, it's necessary. Postpone it. Now, send it back with the boomerang method to ask questions to smoke out objections. Do you see? You may ask questions. If you ask questions, do you see that objections might what? Might emerge by itself. And here we have exhibit 12.10, which demonstrates, do you see, 5 key questions that the salesperson might ask. Do you see? So we pick up examples of rephrasing objections as a question. Do you see? The facts here are incorrect, facts are incomplete, facts are correct, based on bad personal experience. Look at this. Here, you might want to acknowledge the viewpoint of the prospect, or acknowledge their viewpoints, acknowledge facts are correct, acknowledge their viewpoints. If the facts are correct, acknowledge it, accept it. Do you see? And in this, what do? You have to thank the prospect. Do you see? For telling you. Number 2, rephrase the objection. facts are incomplete. If the facts are incomplete, what you might do would be to rephrase the objection. If facts are correct, you may want to rephrase the objection. Do you see? And the last point here, based on this personal experience, you might acknowledge the viewpoint of what? Of the prospect or prospects. Up to the last one, return to the selling sequence. Do you see? Return to the selling sequence. You know, you have the sales call and you are doing the presentation. So if the facts are incomplete, you might return to that. If they are correct, you might do that. And for based on bad personal experience, return to the sales sequence. Right? Now, we have this five question sequence method for overcoming objections. You see, you want to overcome some objections. From what? From the prospect or the prospects. Do you see? Now, this, what we have here, the model here on 1210, tells us the steps, the sequence that we have to go through is in what? In a progression format. Here, the first one, method to use to overcome objections will be, there must be some good reason why you are hesitating to go ahead now. Do you mind if I ask what it is? You are asking the prospect. Do you mind to ask what it is? What is it about? You are using this to overcome the objections. Number 2 is that in addition to that, is there any other reason for not going ahead? Do you see, in a question format? Number 3, just supposing you could convince yourself that then you want to go ahead with it. If positive response, go back to selling. If negative response, go to question 4. Number 4, then if there must be some other reason, may I ask what it is? After you get the response, return to question 2 as it is. Do you see? Is there any other reason for not going ahead? You see? And then number 5, what would it take to convince you? This is what? The sequence, the model, do you see, that you as a salesperson, you might want to use to overcome objections raised by prospect or a prospect. Number 2, we are still going on techniques for meeting objections. If we want to deny it, you have to be very, very careful. You have to be tactful. Do you see? We have this question here of indirect denial. What is indirect denial, my friends? What is indirect denial? Indirect denial. What does that mean? Do you see? if it is direct denial, do you see, whether incomplete or incorrect objections should be acknowledged. You as a salesperson, you should acknowledge the prospect's viewpoints.
Basically, you're pretending to agree with the customer at first as to what their objection is, but then you come up with like a solution to their objection.
Mr. Cross, did you hear what he said?
Yeah. Indirect knowledge, where sales reps acknowledge prospects' feelings, where you acknowledge what they're saying and what they're how they feel about the product.
Okay. Is that direct or indirect?
Indirect.
Indirect. Okay. What you are saying is this, but you see, if it is this, that will work. You see? Here, compensation or counterbalance method. The concept there, counterbalance there, speaks for itself. Mr. This man is Cross. Is J first name or last name?
What is it?
J, is it first name or last name? I think J is a last name. And now I understand. False. False is the last name. And J is the first name. Albert Bercom. So Albert first name. At first I was confused. J. Mm-hmm. Call me Albert. J. I'm calling you J. Can you pick that up? Compensation or counterbalance method of meeting objections?
Well, I guess compensation method would be like, if the product's very expensive, then you would justify it by saying it's a high quality product. Mm-hmm. No?
No, I have not said no. I have not said no. Mm.
I don't know. I guess counterbalance is kind of the same thing as compensation.
Compensation.
I think they're similar. I think that's what they're talking about.
Gross. The viewpoint of the prospect might be correct, might be valid. Mm-hmm. Do you see? As she's saying, must be varied. Do you see? But if that is the case, this might be overcome by what? Compensation. And what is that compensation for?
What are you asking?
Yes, sir.
What are you asking?
What's compensation?
Counterbalance. Here you see that what you as a salesperson might do would be to come up doing the presentation by providing what? The advantages to counterbalance the objections raised by the prospect or prospect. Questions, objections could not be made by 3 or 4 people. It could always be one. You see. Now, here we have a third party. This a third party answer. What is this about? Crow, Platon.
Yeah. Third party. I don't know.
Yes. You know what third party is, right? Hmm? You know what third party is, like if somebody says a third party? Third party is like somebody outside of, how do you explain it?
You are correct. You're somebody.
outside of your agreement,
Yeah,
or someone that's not. I don't know.
yeah. We are doing sales call presentation.
So it's if you have a product, so it's somebody talk about your product outside of your business or something.
Yeah, basically, like a testimony.
Testimony. They're using somebody. Somebody's what? Experience. As he's saying, as what? A testimony to respond to their objection. We are still on. You see, we say that overcoming these objections are very, 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 very challenging. Why is it a challenge? You see, it's a challenge. And because of this, here you look at it that you can use the close. If it is a close here, then it means that this is at a point that you are ending or about to end the presentation, and we are about to gain what? We're about to gain business. So it has to be conversational between you and the prospect or the prospect. But what you might want to do, you see, as a salesperson, you have to be a good communicator, be able to talk nicely to the people, and then help get other people to participate or to be part of the conversation. Just conversational, you see, talk. If you get that, if you do that, you see that you develop friendship, relationship with the prospect or the prospects. Do you see? And this method will even help you, the relationship. Even if the prospect has objections, you might lure him or her and for you to get a business. You see? And if you are asking for this, sometimes you ask for the opinion from the prospect. Ask for opinions. Don't try, do you see, to take control, to take charge of the conversation. Ask for the opinion. What do you think about this? Do you see? Assuming that we are going, is the place, let's say, the prospect or prospect have objections about, let's say, Burger King, and you're trying to influence the prospect or prospect to go and eat at Burger King. So in a conversation, you might ask, is that a good place to eat? Ask the question. You see, if it's a movie, this is a good, legitimate question. What do you think about the movie? And how that sound to you? These are nicely framed questions that might be used by the salesperson. You see. So let us review, when is it time to use a trial close? You see. You are at the end, making the business. So here, after making a strong selling point in the presentation, do you see? You go over this in the presentation. It means that you are getting to the end, to a point where business is about to happen. You see? So, after the presentation, but before the close. Now, after you have responded to the objection or to the objections. Do you see? Next will be that immediately before you move to the close or to the sale. And whether the prospect likes your product or not. Do you see? When you have successfully answered the objections. These are questions that, or statements or models that you might want to follow. Whether objections remain or not, you are moving towards what? The point where sales are likely to happen. You see. Is the prospect ready for you to buy or not to buy? Sometimes the prospect might not even be ready to buy, but you can what? You can prevail on the prospect to close the sale. How do we close the sale? You see, you can, how many quantities? And if there are, how many quantities do you want to order? At this time, you don't even want to talk about the price. Unless money issue comes in from the prospect. You see, why do you use a trial close after answering the objection? Why do you use here? Number one, what do you see? To see if you have answered the objections. Do you see trial close? There are several objections raised. You see, you are getting to the end of the presentation where you are going to find out if sales are going to be made, if business is there. You see, the business might not be there. Do you see? The prospect, objection or objections, the attitude of the prospect, the non-verbal communication might show that you are not making the sale or the business. But you see, all of us are familiar that often these salespersons, these businesses, they keep what? Calling us. Persistence. Do you see? Persistence. If you are not persistent, you are not likely going to make the business. Persistence. Keep calling. You see. Now, you use this trial to close to see if indeed, if indeed all objections or questions related to the product have been answered or have been met. You have succeeded in your discussions in a conversational format towards the end of the presentation. You see, you have been able to convince the prospect, and that the prospect is agreeing or disagreeing. If the prospect is disagreeing, what do you do? What do you do? Jay, if you have if you have a house ready, you put it on the market, and then a prospect comes.
Yeah.
If you see that in taking that prospect through, walk the prospect through, and you see the body language.
Honestly, I don't care. I mean, because I don't know, I sold a house this morning, and I mean, I just don't care. I just put a price on there that's so cheap, and then I get 100 phone calls, and I just don't care. I mean, if they want to buy it, great. If they don't, I don't care. Somebody else will buy it. I mean, but I mean, sometimes I don't know. I don't really try and sell anything.
So you said you sold a house this morning. How much?
Huh?
How much?
It was like 2,000.
202,000?
No, 2,000.
2,000.
Yeah.
A complete house?
Yeah. So I just put a cheap price on it.
A car was more than $2,000.
That is,
That's what you profited, or that's how much you
No,
sold?
that's how much I sold it for. Yeah, I bought it for 50.
you bought it for $50,
Yeah.
and you sold it for,
Where at?
yeah, for 2,000. So you see the profit here,
If you're
100,
selling houses that cheap,
150.
I'll buy them up out of Marina.
You want to go and
Shit.
buy, you want to go and buy from him?
If he sold them that cheap.
Yeah, if the neighborhood is good. Do you operate in good neighborhoods?
It depends.
I can guarantee you they ain't.
I mean, sometimes they're okay. Like the house in Beckley, I mean, it was like, I don't know, it was okay neighborhood. You know, I mean, it's not like the nicest neighborhood in Beckley, but
There ain't
It's
a
not
nice
like-
neighborhood in Beckley.
Hmm?
Said there ain't a nice neighborhood in Beckley.
yeah, it's okay. But
Why don't you operate in our neighborhood here?
well, because it's hard to buy anything here anymore. Because
Oh.
nothing really comes up for sale, and then
If it does, it's expensive.
yeah, most of the time. I mean, because there's so much fewer stuff, people go to auctions and bid it up, and people are paying, you know, like for some house where it needs all this work, needs a new roof, it needs the whole house redone. You know, people will go and they'll pay like a few $1,000s for it, and I know that that's my whole profit on a house is a few $1,000s. So I just, I don't try and do much here anymore.
So do you live in Berkeley and then you commute?
No, I live here in Bluefield.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. You, Mr. Crow, you live in Princeton,
I live near the mall.
Near
Near
the-
the mall.
near the mall. Oh. Do you live in Princeton or you live in Bluefield?
No, I live here in Bluefield.
Don't worry telling us about where you live. We are not coming to get you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is my house.
Oh, have you been to his house?
I sold the house.
Oh, okay. Do we have any questions on objections? Mr. Now, if you are calling the first name, you don't have to add any title. Otherwise, I will say Mr. J. But if it is the last name, you say Mr. Fools. Otherwise, it's J. Do you have questions, J?
No.
Mr. Kroll, do you have questions?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Now, this is what you know. We have a third test coming. The third test is on.
I'm gonna look at the calendar.
Look. You said there's too much work for you. I have.
Test number 3 is not scheduled until April 20th.
April 20th. Yes, okay. And I wanted to tell you the chapters. That was what I was brainstorming my this thing. But the last test is going to be on this chapter 12, 13, 14, and I think 16 and 17, 5 chapters. But this one, the third one is going to be on 3 chapters. And we have looked at chapter 11, 10, and 9. Let me go for this and then make you to be aware. And this morning, French, he was here, and they have been working on a topic for.
I'm not in their group, you know that, right?
No, you are not in that group.
Yeah.
You are with that man with the dealership.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know that I have sent several emails about your topic.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this morning, excuse me, this morning I took them through about how to write the proposal. And he took all the notes I gave. If you don't have, I have a copy of the format from another book.
Well, it's in the book.
Yeah, it's in the book. But you see that one, the current book is is detailed. But this one helps a lot. And I took the guy. If you watch the video,
Okay.
you get it.
I'll watch the video.
Yeah, if you watch the video, you get it.
Did you get that email?
I did.
Do you think we'll be able to use it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't care.
I don't either.
Because,
And I've got a PowerPoint to go with it too.
okay.
So if we have to have one of those.
Yeah.
So it don't matter to me. I mean, if y'all want to do a whole another one, that's fine.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if you want my honest opinion or not, but
I think we just have something.
yeah, but I think that well, it needs some editing.
Oh well, yeah.
So maybe I'll just go through it and rewrite some parts if that's okay.
Yeah, man.
All right.
I don't care. As long as we get it done. I don't care.
Well, I guess you have 2 classes, but then I have 3 classes.
Yeah, I've got this one. And I have to